All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for your coming today to the Institute on the Constitution Leadership Training. You folks are the cream of the cream. You are the best of the best. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you being here. We are so excited about the new materials that we've got. And I'm going to be sharing with you today to literally multiply the messages we talk about so often. I want to open us up with prayer and with the pledge, because that's the way we open all of our meetings, and I always need divine assistance. I don't know about you. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for every person that's here today, and I pray that you bless them with understanding and with just turning and touching their hearts for the things that they need to know, the way that you want them to go, and help this message to be clear, help this message to go out and multiply, that we might spread the truth of this nation's founding and of the truth of you. And we offer up this day to you for your blessing and to honor you. In Jesus' name. And would you please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Well, once again, welcome to this, as we are going to fully equip you today to multiply the message of our American Christian heritage and the American view of law and government. You're going to learn how to start these classes as we review the administrative details, which sometimes that's the biggest hurdle to get over. And we're going to teach you how to teach other people, not just this material, but how to start to think and reason from a biblical perspective as we go over the lessons in the hosted student manual. Now, I got to tell you, this has been a labor of love, but it's been an incredible labor. We've got all updated materials, and we've got a lot of new materials. Our message has grown significantly as we've developed several new outreach courses and programs. What you're going to see today is the updated 6 or 12-week Constitution course for teens and adults, and the reason we're calling it 6 or 12, some people get stumbled at the idea of coming to 12 weeks of the course, and so we are offering also the choice of having 6 3-hour classes if they don't want 12 90-minute classes. And a 6:30 to 9:30 class is long, but it's not outrageous. And so it's just another way to appeal to people. If 12 weeks is too long for them, we can do it in 6. We have a one-day seminar that Brian and Janice Snyder, who are manipulating all of our AV equipment here, have written called Our American Christian Heritage for pastors and community leaders to get the message out to churches. How important is that, to get the pastors behind this once again? So please, as we talk through these materials, see Brian and Janice or me if you want to know more about those classes. We're actually reaching youth. Yay! Can anybody say yay? I tell you what, youth is, if we don't pass this baton, we're done. And so I'm just so excited that we're finally getting to youth through American clubs, high schools and college age kids. They won't let us in the front door, but we're coming in the back door through student clubs, which the schools cannot stop. And we have Liberty Counsel behind us to back the kids up should they have any difficulty with that. We have a 5-day Liberty camp for kids ages 8 through 12 that's structured like a vacation Bible school. Oh, those are fantastic. We have a sheriff and a citizen course, which Barb Temple is already in existence, but she's working on curriculum so that we can get this into law enforcement people to understand the Constitution. They all take an oath to uphold the Constitution, but unfortunately, and most of them will tell you, oh yeah, I'm a Second Amendment sheriff, or I believe in the Second Amendment. But if you get past the Second Amendment, they don't know anything, and frankly, they don't know much about that sometimes. And so this is a very, very needed course that she's working on. And we have the duty of the jury, which some of you have taken already, learning about the power of an informed juror. I mean, we are just hitting all age groups in lots of different places, so just lots and lots of stuff. Now, as we launch all of these new ventures, I want to give you a little bit of a history of our finances as where we are now, because there's been a major change. You know, as leaders, it's important for you guys to know the inside scoop, because you're part of the team now. The IOTC ministry was born more than a decade ago when Michael Peruka's law firm, Peruka and Peruka, founded and subsidized it. In the past 2 years, due to the Obama economy, the firm is no longer able to continue funding the IOTC. Michael actually retired from law and was elected as a county councilman in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Jake McCauley is an ordained minister and former syndicated radio talk show host, and he is our new CEO. He's only 35, yay! And with a lot of prayer, consideration, and deliberation, IOTC has actually stepped out in faith and become an independent, tax-exempt nonprofit that up until this year has never even needed $1 of donations. Therefore, today our material costs have grown somewhat because we are no longer subsidized by the Peruka law firm, but the need for these materials has never been greater. Jake is diligently traveling all across America, speaking to liberty groups, homeschool conferences, and churches with this message of restoration, while simultaneously working to grow our donor, student, and leader base with education through all of these new materials that I just told you about. And he is being very enthusiastically received everywhere he goes. You are here today, or watching this video presentation, as our partners in that effort to learn how to host and teach our flagship course, the U.S. Constitution, An American View of Law, Liberty, and Government. But even more important is the way that you're going to learn how to host and teach these classes. The host manual that you have in front of you, or the teacher manual, reflects that emphasis in the title, where it's called, not on the front cover, but on the inside, the U.S. Constitution and the Principle Approach, putting feet on the IOTC. In other words, you're going to learn how the principles undergirding, you're going to learn the principles undergirding the Constitution, and you're going to be teaching other people how to think through those principles and ultimately how to use them to restore our republic. And this is truly multiplying the message in the most effective way possible, and it's what sets our Constitution course apart from all the others. You know, we don't just give a man a fish, we teach him how to fish. You're going to teach them how to reason through this themselves. And I don't know of any other course that does that. Well, there are basically 3 kinds of people that you guys are looking at out here today who take this leadership training. There's some people out there who are really happy and excited to be leading a classroom full of people. Others of you would rather die than do that. I know that. But there are others of you who would like to lead, and you'd be comfortable leading a small home study, or maybe a Bible or Sunday school class. This is a great thing for Sunday school classes since we've downsized them. Or there's also people who just want to learn more as an individual so that you can share one-on-one with others, with the certainty that you're using historically and factually accurate resources and information. Whatever category you fit into today, welcome, because you are part of the restoration process, and I am so glad you're here. In a book called Restoring History, author Frederick Hutchinson described and summarized America's current dilemma under a heading called The Present Crisis. Listen to what he wrote. He says, conflict between 3 mutually exclusive worldviews will take place during the first half of the 21st century, namely socialism and progressivism versus conservatism and Christianity versus radical Islam. Each of these 3 antagonists must repudiate the other 2. Only one philosophy can remain standing in the end. Tolerance is not an option. I want to repeat that. Tolerance is not an option. Conservatism and Christianity are increasingly intolerant towards socialism and progressivism. As the evil implications of those doctrines become clearer, a radical repudiation will be unavoidable. Meanwhile, the jihadist Muslims hate everyone and seem determined to generate hatred in all non-Muslims. That's some pretty powerful words. But fence setting just isn't going to be an option as the days go by. This battle of worldviews can only be won through right thinking, particularly as it relates to religion and education. Truth is our greatest weapon in our educational arsenal, and the God you serve determines the education you provide. In America, that God is Jehovah, the God of the Bible, and our education should reflect that truth. Well, how much is it needed? Let me give you 3 quick examples. In the 2012 elections, many people who said they were against abortion, they were against same-sex marriage, and they were against forced unionism, voted for Obama, thus supporting the very things they claim to oppose. Second one, in an editorial about one of our IOTC classes, and I've got this with me, you can read it today later, a writer actually wrote this. He said, "The Constitution classes being offered by the Springboro School Board have a Christian orientation to them and therefore do not fall under the umbrella of diversity. Although no one is forced to take them, they cannot be tolerated because then people might understand the perspective of the people who originally wrote it. Considering the current trend to ignore or reinterpret the Constitution in a more liberal manner, these courses cannot be tolerated." That's how some people think. And the third one, this is my personal favorite. A college student recently told a friend of mine that she loved socialism. And when she was asked why, she said, "Oh, it's like Facebook and Twitter and social media. I just love that." Folks, our work is cut out for us. Okay? People like this not only don't know what they're supporting and what they believe, but here's the key: they don't know that they don't know. Okay? And this is where all of us step in right now. Calvin Coolidge once said that great statesmen are, quote, ambassadors of providence, sent to reveal to us our unknown selves, end quote. Now think about what that means. An ambassador of providence is a kind and diplomatic messenger sent by God. Revealing to individuals their unknown selves is working with clueless or naive people to help them learn to think about truth. This includes those who call themselves conservatives and teaching them what it means to think constitutionally in order to defend America's heritage, not just supporting their form of conservatism. The reality of today is that people often allow emotions to form their opinions, and the media uses this tactic with great skill to manipulate public opinion. And this does not lead to truth or to principles. What we hope to teach you today is how to teach principles and truth so that these will drive opinions and emotions. Our new IRTC materials use the principle approach to education as we teach the Constitution, teaching people how to think, not telling them what to think. And this method of teaching is as important as the content of what you are teaching. Those of you who purchased a host kit should have had included in it a DVD entitled Multiplying the Message. We're going to watch if you did not, I mean you should have, but I do have a couple extra copies available for sale if it did not come, but it should be in your kit. We're going to watch the first 20 minutes of that to give you some more IOTC history, but most importantly, to introduce you to the principal approach to education and how pivotal it is to this message. So, Doug, if you're ready, if we can run the first 20 minutes of Multiplying the Message, and that one's actually going to be behind me, so we're good to go.
I am so grateful and excited to have the opportunity to share with you today. How many of you have taken the Institute on the Constitution classes? Well, for those of you who have not, this material may not be quite as meaningful. It will make more sense to those of you who have completed the course. However, I'm hoping to fan the flame in all of your hearts who want to know more about your God-given destiny and purpose. I've often been invited to give a talk called, "Why Do I Need to Know the Constitution?" It's an important question, and learning the right answer is changing people's lives. Let me explain. Like you, I have a great love for my country, and it is egregious to me to see our liberties disappearing, sometimes through overt government theft or usurpation, and other times through citizen ignorance and apathy. One of my deepest desires is to get those liberties back. But how do we do that? Activism is obviously a key player, but it's got to be educated, it's got to be targeted, and I even want to call it patriotic activism. Well, what do I mean by that? Words matter and definitions are important. How many of you consider yourselves to be a patriot? Whenever I ask that question, almost every hand goes up. Well, let's see if you're right, according to founding father Noah Webster. One of his many accomplishments in life was to write America's very first dictionary in 1828, and that dictionary has been republished, by the way. To read his definitions is to better understand the minds of our founding fathers. Most of you know that there's a revisionist history movement, but did you also know that there is a revisionist dictionary movement? Definitions are being rewritten, words are being redefined, and does it matter? You better believe it. I have a 1968 Harcourt Brace dictionary at home. Let's look at the word right. And it defines right as conformity to standards or prevailing conditions. How about Noah? What did he have to say about that? He said right was according to the will of God. Just a little difference there. One of them changes with the times. The other is a timeless principle. Words do matter and their definitions do not change. So let's see what Noah said. How did he define patriotism, and see if you fit. He said patriotism is love of one's country. It's the passion which aims to serve one's country either in defending it from invasion or protecting its rights and maintaining its laws and institutions. I want you to zero in on that part. Protecting its rights and maintaining its laws and institutions. Patriotism is the characteristic of a good citizen, the noblest passion that animates a man. Wow, being a patriot is a tall order. It's obviously a whole lot more than waving a flag or putting the right bumper sticker on your car. So let's look at it a little more closely. Just what does it mean to protect and maintain America's laws and institutions? What are our country's laws and institutions? What's the law of our land?
Well, it's the Constitution, obviously.
The Constitution. Do you know what it says? Does it matter? Well, according to this definition, if you want to be a true patriot, it does. For how can you protect, defend, or maintain something that you know little or nothing about? Well, these questions and this definition and this passion were in my heart when I first heard about the Institute on the Constitution, the IOTC. I feel like one of its founding fathers, or maybe I should say founding mothers. I first saw the IOTC materials and met John Eidsmoe, the main instructor, 15 years ago in 1995 when he first published and presented these materials at a conference in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I was there to learn and take some classes offered at the conference and also to be a reenactor, a pilgrim in America's Hometown Parade. It's a yearly event that they have in Plymouth as part of the Thanksgiving Day celebration. And here we are, the Colonel and the Pilgrim. At this conference, as Lieutenant Colonel Eidsmoe presented these IOTC materials, my heart was literally about to beat out of my chest with excitement. I didn't know why. I didn't understand it, but God was letting me know that I had to not only take this class, but I had to learn how to present it as well. For the next 14 years, I made it available to homeschool and church groups or anybody else who would listen. I led classes of about 20 people every other year, sometimes every 3 years, and those who took the course loved it, but you just couldn't generate a whole lot of interest to get them to sign up. Well, fast forward to July 4th, 2009, Independence Day. I was invited to speak at a local Tea Party event in Springfield, Ohio, on the importance of knowing the Constitution. My presentation was very enthusiastically received, and when I stepped off that stage, 14 people surrounded me immediately and said, "I want to take that class." Well, little did I know that this was the birth of a movement that I could never have envisioned. Because unlike the classes from my previous years that had been from one homeschool group or the same church, these people they didn't even know each other. They were from all different backgrounds, different churches, different schools. All they had in common was the fact that they had a desire to take this Constitution class and become better patriots. Well, when the class started a few weeks later, registration had grown from 14 to 35, my biggest class ever. By the second week, those new students had spoken with their friends, and 85 more people wanted to take the class. I had never seen anything like this. We started a second class, and before these 2 classes were completed, 5 more classes were scheduled to begin. However, there was a problem. After graduating the first 2 classes of more than 100 people, I realized in conversation with the graduates that they still didn't understand some of the basic concepts of government and the Constitution. Things like the fact that Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land because court doesn't make law. They didn't understand that there are governmental jurisdictions, self-government, family, church, civil government, and that they each have boundaries that the others should not cross. They did not understand that executive orders are not law. They didn't understand the concept of impeaching judges for bad behavior. In short, though they had completed the IOTC course, they still did not qualify as patriots. Remember the definition? People who could protect their nation and its rights by maintaining America's laws and institutions. They couldn't protect or maintain America's law, the Constitution, because though they had studied its contents, they didn't know how to use it. They missed the connection between learning and doing. But their desire was to do something. That's why they took the class. They wanted to help restore America to its foundations, but this was not happening in spite of the fact that they'd completed the course. So I began praying, and I asked God, Lord, how do I bridge this gap? And He immediately brought to my memory the method of education that I had discovered while homeschooling my children several years earlier, called the principal approach. This method of education was used by our founding fathers, and rather than simply teaching people what to think, it teaches you how to do research, think, and reason for yourself using a biblical worldview. So I started to pull together materials to incorporate this method into the IOTC classes, not only adding supplemental articles to support the weekly lessons, but also changing the method of teaching and review questions. The difference in the students in the next batch of classes was monumental. They went from interested listeners to passionate participants. Their excitement grew as they began to see that they were understanding the principles of the Constitution, and often better than their own legislators. This brought a new level of confidence, and they began speaking up more with friends, family, and coworkers, and they started to get involved in their local communities and make real changes. Well, excitement grew, and these classes became so popular we could not keep up with the demand of the people who wanted to take them. So I put together a curriculum to teach other people how to teach the IOTC with the principal approach add-ons, and just hoped that maybe a couple folks might show up that might be willing to learn how to do this. Well, to my utter amazement, in my small community, 20 people signed up to take the leadership class. That was bigger than the classes used to be. Since that July 4th, 09 Tea Party talk, there has never been a time when there are not several Constitution classes going on at the same time in Southwest Ohio. And next month in January, we are about to graduate 250 people from 12 different classes. And more people are already signing up for the next round of new classes, and we've got another teacher training scheduled for January. Well, this past June, in the midst of all of this activity, Pastor David Whitney spoke with me and said, "You're graduating more people in these classes in Southwest Ohio than anywhere else in the nation. What are you doing?" Well, I told them that while John Eidsmoe was teaching students about the Constitution, I was teaching them how to use the Constitution. I was putting feet on it by using the principal approach along with the standard curriculum. We help them to learn to talk to their pastors so that we can get this instruction into the churches. You know, the church is a sleeping giant today, and the separation of church and state is a lie that will not stand up against the truth of the First Amendment. We introduce them to organizations that are working at the Constitution level so they will not be misled to waste their time and money helping well-meaning groups that are in reality chasing red herrings like overturning Roe v. Wade. And we do it by using the principal approach. Well, I gave Pastor Whitney some of my materials to bring back to Maryland for the others to review, and apparently they liked what they saw because they asked me to put together a manual with the extra materials and to come here and film this DVD training to accompany it as a supplement for those leaders who want to see similar results with their classes. So here we are, and here we go. Just what is the principal approach, and why is it so effective? How many of you here today have even heard of it? Most people really haven't. It's a brand new concept to them, and I actually call it Restoring America Through Educational Excellence. The principal approach uses 7 biblical principles, definitions from Webster's 1828 dictionary and other primary source documents, and some leading questions. And for the IOT, and it helps you actually to search out the truth in any subject. For the IOTC classes, we were using applications that related especially to government and to history. The method is called the 4 R's. The first one being research, where we use that Bible, Webster's 1828 dictionary, and other primary sources. We don't read about Washington's farewell address. We read Washington's farewell address. We don't read about the Constitution. We read the Constitution. That's a big difference with primary sources. After doing that research, we reason. We use leading questions to identify the truth or sometimes former misconceptions. Then we relate it to history or to a current event or whatever subject is before us. And lastly, we record it. We either write it down or we use it by contacting our congressman or speaking to others with constitutional or principled arguments, not just our opinions any longer. Now, I really want you to understand how powerful this method of teaching is, because I sincerely believe that it is the core reason for our success in these classes. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into it. The principal approach was accidentally endorsed by an organization called the Nehemiah Institute. They're a Christian research organization that was formed in the 1980s for the purpose of returning America to a biblical way of thinking. To that end, they created a test they called the Peers Test. Now, the Peers Test is not academic in nature, but rather it's a diagnostic tool that helps to identify and measure students' worldviews in the area of politics, there's your P, economics, there's your first E, education, the next one, R, religion, and S, social issues. That's the peers. Well, what they expected to do was to dramatically demonstrate the difference in worldviews between Christians in the public school versus Christians in the Christian schools. But what they learned instead was absolutely jolting. The results showed that while the Christian school students slightly surpassed the public school students in their proximity to a biblical worldview, there was one group of schools that was far superior to the average Christian school in its ability to help students develop a scriptural perspective on everything. And they looked at that and they said, who are these guys? Well, on further investigation, they learned that these outstanding schools were using a method called the principal approach. And like most of you here today, the Nehemiah Institute had never even heard of the principal approach. Well, the data from the Peers Test was both enlightening and intriguing. While both the public and the Christian schools' biblical worldview was steadily plummeting through the years, further into secular humanism and socialism even, the principal approach students were growing stronger in their biblical worldview. The Peers trend chart shows both of these stark developments very clearly. Let's have a look at the data. You may not be able to see it real well, but the upper right corner has the Peers worldview scale. And this explains the correlation between the test score numbers and the various worldviews. For example, scores over 70 represent a biblical worldview. Scores below 70 identify worldviews in decreasing order as moderate Christian, secular humanism, socialism, and even scores below 0, and yes, you can score below 0, are a Marxist-Leninist worldview. Now, as you can see from this photo, the principal approach schools, which are marked in green, consistently scored not only way above the other schools, but they grew in their understanding of a biblical worldview through the years. They started at 61 and worked their way up to 70. Conversely, both the public and traditional Christian schools declined in their understanding of a biblical worldview as the years passed. Look how low they're getting, starting at 40 and going down into the teens. The schools, public schools starting in the 30s and ending up, I'm not even sure how low that is, like 5 or 6. I mean, it's really going down. Well, to better understand this data, let's have a look at the scoring method so you can see where they're coming up with this, along with the sampling of the statements from the Peers test, which the students are asked when they get these statements to either agree or disagree with them. An example of a statement on the test is, the concept of family, traditionally understood as father, mother, and children, needs to be redefined to include other types of committed relationships. Now, when the students read that, they have to rank their level of agreement or disagreement with it. Another statement, because human nature is constantly changing, values and ethics will also change. Therefore, each generation should be free to adopt moral standards appropriate to their preferences. I hope your blood's starting to boil. Next statement. A primary function of civil government is to enact education and social programs designed to prevent overpopulation of its land. Yikes. Okay, those are the kinds of statements that are in the Peers test, and then here's your scoring method. Your possible answers are either that you strongly agree, you tend to agree, you're neutral, you tend to disagree, or you strongly disagree. And this is where they're getting their scores from. Now, from these statements and this scoring method, the conclusion, the evidence, is both clear and alarming. You know, public and traditional Christian schools are failing to create a biblical worldview in their students. Now, you might expect that in the public school, but that's shocking to find that in the Christian school. But the other evidence was equally clear, but actually inspirational, because the principal approach schools are building citizens who can increasingly think and reason from a biblical perspective, an absolutely essential element in restoring America to its biblical foundations, limited constitutional government. This is why I chose to incorporate the principal approach into the IOTC materials. We wanted our graduates to be able to think and reason for themselves using a biblical perspective. We didn't want them using just their opinions. We certainly didn't want them to be using what the world was feeding them. And we don't even want them just parroting what we're telling them. Because a man is never truly free until he can think and reason for himself from the right premise.
But that, and by the way, the Peers chart that you were looking at, you may have noticed, ended at 2002. We have the updated chart in your manual up to 2015, and the statistics did not improve. Okay, so we're still fighting that same battle. Okay, that's why the principle, how you're teaching, is as important as what you're teaching. It's going to teach people to think, to reason, to break through the smoke screen, to take charge of the debate and expose the root problem, and to fix it constitutionally. So let's go ahead and break into your materials. For those of you who purchased a host kit, hopefully you brought with you today your host manual, which is the 3-ring binder, and the student manual, which is the spiral binder. I had some loaners go out. If you don't have one, please sit close to somebody who does so that you can follow along with us, because we're going to be really going closely over these materials. Your manual also included a set of 2 discs, which has the 12 course lectures. And some of you purchased a bigger kit that had 6 extra DVDs as well in that. Now, for the train today, we're just going to be using those 2 manuals. And I want to just offer a across-the-board apology before I start here. We literally have a one-room schoolhouse situation here today, okay? There are some people here who have taken the course, there are some people here who have already taken leadership training before, and there's even some people here who have not even taken the course yet. And so I'm going to go into a lot of detail, and forgive me if I sound like I'm talking down to you. I do not intend that, I really don't. But I want to make sure that everybody understands where we're going with these, with the details. So let's plunge in. Go ahead and open up your host manual, your 3-ring binder. And let's go until we get to page 3. At the top where it says overview of materials and how to use them.
to a flight.
You like that interlude?
Sorry.
No one's supposed to say anything on there.
It's like, where did that come from? Okay. And let's just go through that. You don't have to read about the author, you already know about that. But let's just read through the materials here, because this is your key to understanding how to use this stuff. Where it says about the manual, this U.S. Constitution and Principle Approach training manual is subtitled Putting Feet on the IOTC, which makes us learn how to use it. You're going to be showing people how to use these materials and how to walk it out to restore our constitutional republic and to multiply the message to others. So here we go. Now, a CD came with your kit as well. And on that CD, it's entitled the 2016 IOTC Host Manual, has your entire manual on it, in addition to other documents. And we're going to, it's recommended that you download that entire CD onto your computer for easy access, but we're not going to go there yet. Just one moment, let's see. Not till I get down to, there we go, okay. It's and we're going to show you how to do that. Brian's going to do it, but not quite yet. The student manual layout, on your table of contents, if you want to open up your student manual quickly. And turn right to the very beginning. And you can see the whole overview there of every one of the lectures and the titles. It lists the title of each lecture, and then each individual lecture begins with specific and general objectives, followed by a detailed outline of the lecture notes, and all of those are going to be reinforced by the video instructor as we go. And so the student manual follows those lectures really closely, and you've got tabs that makes it really easy to follow. At the end of every lesson, and we'll be going over this later in detail, there's going to be 3 forms of questions: lecture review, fill in the blank, test, and true or false. And the answers to all of these questions are now located in the back of the student manual, which is really cool. So if they have to miss a class, or we even recommend you do some of it ahead of class. There's going to be homework assignments that are listed in there that correspond to every lecture, and they're listed on a separate page with the test questions. The assignments plus optional additional reading and video materials are available in 3 different ways. Some of them are going to be emailed to students. Some of them are going to be included within the emails as internet links. And some of them are available at the American View website under resources, and we're going to show you how to access those as well. The next bullet that we've got down, the next bullet heading, is the host or teacher training your feet manual. That's what you're looking at. This manual corresponds exactly with each of the 12 lessons in your student manual. And its purpose is to go deeper into each lesson to gain a greater understanding of our heritage and the principles that undergird our constitutional republic and what it means to be an American. With the use of the supplemental aids and methods, this is where we're hoping to teach the students how to begin to think and reason through the various governmental principles. The exciting thing is, what you saw in that DVD about how I introduced this method to Ohio, the IOTC is now wanting this to go just nationwide, and it is growing like a wildfire. And so what you're learning today is just, it's been out there for a while, but it's all of a sudden ignited clear across the country. And the way we're going to do that is the next underlined heading there is the principle approach. You know, to accomplish getting this message out with how to think, we're going to use the Founder's Method of Education, the principle approach, and I'm going to model it. It's going to be modeled in every one of these lessons for you. You don't have to, don't panic. You won't need to know how to do this. It's all written out for you. This means that a few pre-selected test questions from each lesson in the student manual are going to be used as a springboard to go a little bit deeper. These and other key teaching points are going to be labeled in your book as essential points, and leading questions to direct the students to begin to think and reason from a principled foundation, not just their opinions, are written out along with the answers. And we're going to go over a couple of lessons in great detail so you'll see how this works. Key words will be defined with America's very first dictionary, known as Webster's 1828. And I'm sure everybody here knows he was a founding father. And using this tool allows us a greater understanding of original intent, not to mention the fact that he was a master of 27 languages. Now, the note here says, please be sure to read this next section of the host manual, the Principal Approach to Education. That's the next tab in your binder, for a better understanding before you read the individual lessons plans, or watching the first 20 minutes, you just did this, of the DVD, Multiplying the Message, will also be very helpful to understanding how important it is to follow this method of teaching. So what you just saw on the DVD is the next tab in your manual. That's all in there, along with other resources and the updated peers test and everything. So we're trying to provide everything for you, and you've already done that part. Okay, now the emails. This host teacher training feat manual also contains other instructional materials that are not part of your student manual. These are where the deeper learning experience is going to happen. At the end of every lesson, there are homework emails. Most of these are printed in your manual. They're also located on the accompanying CD that came with your manual, and some of the longer ones are located only on the CD. The table of contents is going to list every single one of those that accompanies every lesson, including a notation as to which ones are in print and which ones are on the CD. Now these emails are to be sent to the students with the corresponding lessons, as many will be discussed to one degree or another in class. And to make this user-friendly, okay Brian, we're ready. The CD that has each of these emails on it is in separate files listed in order in which they're to be mailed and named after the lecture number to hopefully. And let's move on down to the optional video clips. Okay. The video clips, this is what's one of the newest parts of our courses, and this has been one of the highlights of our classes. The students just love these. They are available online, and we're going to have Brian step up to the plate in just a second here again, at theamericanview.com. And And what we've done, if Brian, if you can scroll down a little bit, you'll notice next to, we've got, go down just a little bit, there you go. They're numbered on the side here and titled, and then there's a brief description, how long they are, and what we recommend them for. For example, this is video clips to promote the IOTC classes. Now scroll down a little bit, and this one is also suggested for lesson 1. Keep scrolling down. This one is any class opener, and then from here on down, we literally go lesson 1, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 2, lecture 3. They're listed in order of what the classes that we recommend them for. And you're going to find this duplicated as we go through your manual. You'll find them as well. Now, like I said, some of them are obviously more serious, but we do have some in there for the comic relief, if you will. And we'll go through, again, as we go through the classes to show you when those are used. Let's go back to page 5 under using this manual. It says class procedures and instructions are written out in great detail for each lesson. This manual here is designed to teach the teacher how to use the principal approach, and each lesson has a section entitled Principal Approach Points to Ponder, and in these sections the principal approach teaching points are written out in such a way that you can literally read this manual out loud to your students. You don't have to know how to do it yourself until such a time as you are comfortable using your own words. The questions and answers that are marked as essential points often spur great discussion, and this is going to be centered on principle, not just prior opinions. Now, we encourage you to make these lessons yours by adding other optional videos or current events if you want to underscore the principal approach points. And you might want to include other important teaching points, but always, 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 please use the principal approach, points to ponder, and the essential points, because these are the key to the objective of every lesson. One extra little point, the last heading there, extra training materials in this kit. The larger host kit included 6 additional DVDs that you may have gotten along with a book called Law and Liberty. These are there to enhance your education as a teacher, and also as optional resources for your students. They are available for the students to purchase online, and they're going to be listed in their homework pages if they want to do so. You can also sometimes add these before or after class. Lisa led a class, and a lot of the students, she told them to come, 30 minutes early, I think it was, if they wanted to see an optional video, and like 80-something% of them came. And so, yeah, there's different ways that you can incorporate these into your class if you want to, or after class as homework assignments. Some people, even though they complain about a 12-week course, when you get to week 10 and 11, they're like, oh my gosh, we're almost done already? And they want to continue. And so you can even continue for 13, 14. Pam and Mike Summer here they have continual. How often do you have your meetings? Once a week. They have people come to their home for education for stuff like this. And so there's all kinds of ways to use those extra ones if you've got them. If you have any questions, this will become clearer to you as we walk our way through it. But please don't hesitate to contact me. Do not think you are bothering me. This is my passion. This is what I do. And so if you've got questions or difficulties with it, there's contact information right there on this page for you to be able to get through to me. Okay. Okay, I showed you now to continue on the table of contents. Let's look at that briefly. Your first page until you get down to lecture 1, we're going to go through that. That's all administrative stuff. It might not be overly exciting, but it's stuff you need to know. We're going to go over that. And then once you get down to lecture 1, lecture 2, instruction, there's the titles of each one of those emails that is on the CD that we just showed you to send to people. And with the exception, I believe, of 3 or 4 of them, every one of those emails is actually copied in your manual. You have it. You've already got a copy of it in here. But because it's also on the CD, you can copy one page. You know, if you make a special note or something on a page and you think, oh darn, I didn't want to put that on there, you can print a clean page, okay? You can print any pieces of this manual that you want to. All right, your next tab is called Principal Approach. We're just going to blow right over that because you heard about that in the DVD. But you'll notice the last page of that is the 2015 Peers Updated Test. And you'll see that the results are still just as abysmal as they were for the public and unfortunately the Christian schools. But the principal approach and some of the traditional homeschools, Christian schools and homeschools are doing a little bit better job. Let's go to the next tab, which is called the Pre-Course Prep. Let's see. Okay, we're going to give you a 5-minute break because we just dumped a bunch of stuff on you for this. So go ahead and give yourselves 5 minutes to get coffee, get a drink, go to the bathroom. We might stretch it to 8. But be back in your chairs and we're going to really get the pre-course prep on that.